Naruto, as the Ten Tails, offers many dilemmas to the series. The concept of free will and safety, as well as the concept of continual existence at the cost of everyone else. The Ten Tails is a creature of destruction. In destroying a world, it absorbs all of that power into itself to create a chakra fruit. But even the mere concept of the Ten Tails is enough to cause destruction, in so much that men attempt to control it for their own desires, and thus serves as a parable that ends up a common trope within Japanese media, in that greedy men attempt to control the natural order to serve them, but only end up bringing about their own destruction. Naruto faces a dilemma in that his continued existence is itself a threat to mankind, but this is offset by the idea that he cannot die. He is immortal, and even if he does die, he will simply reincarnate again. So what is the answer? If he cannot live without being a threat, and he cannot die without being reborn, what is his recourse? Well, let's tune in and find out for ourselves. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed. So if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check that you are subscribed, and with that out of the way, let's get into it. The air was cold. It was frigid. Naruto stood there clenching his fists over and over again to try to stave off the stiffness of this bitter chill. He looked over at the faces around him, each one red from the cold wind, their hair dripping wet from the freezing rain. They stood on a bridge under an awning. This was their only protection against the freezing deluge that slowly froze their path forward in black ice, an ice so clear one could not tell it was there until they had slipped on it. Even still, the wind and the spray of the sea coming up from below continued to soak them. Sakura shivered slightly in the cold, despite wearing a jacket issued to them. This winter had been bitter. It was becoming more and more common to find frostbite as a battlefield injury. Naruto and the others had been training to conquer the elements for quite some time now, and despite the fact that they had the ability to regulate their internal body temperature, it didn't make the feeling on the skin any less miserable. "I don't like this," Naruto said plainly. "What you like doesn't matter. We're here for the mission," Sasuke responded. "But assassination? Is that really our goal? Why send children?" Sakura asked. Sasuke turned to her. "Because children are unassuming. It's why we've been requested to leave our headbands behind. We're war orphans and refugees, according to the pre-established story. Once we're in, we find Hanzo and we kill him. That's all there is to it." Naruto grit his teeth. "I hate this. Sneaking around, killing. This whole war is stupid." Sasuke took a deep breath. "I don't care for it any more than you do, but it remains the same. We either do our job or we don't. We're shinobi. That means getting our hands dirty for the sake of the country. Doing things that make us sleep not so good at night. That's what my brother says, and that's how he acts. That's what I say, and that's how I'll act too." The rain slowed its intensity a little, though it didn't stop. It so very rarely stopped. "This is the best chance we'll get. Come on." Naruto led them toward the village, where they would crawl over the side of the bridge and began crawling along its bottom in the direction of the gate. They knew that they would never get in through the front, particularly because they didn't want their entrance to be recorded. There could be no witnesses, no evidence. For all intents and purposes, they were born in Amagi, and they were allowed to take with them only what they could properly conceal at all times. This was the ultimate test of their mettle, their grit as shinobi. And despite how difficult it sounded, a mission suitable only for the most experienced member of the Anbu Black Ops, Team 7 was perfectly capable. Kakashi was outside of the village in a secret location. He had carrier pigeons ready at all times. He had created an encryption and decryption process that only he and his team knew, that would use a passcode only they remembered as the key cipher. That way, even if the message fell into the wrong hands, it would not be intelligible by any save Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. Despite knowing his team was perfectly ready for this, especially since Naruto possessed all the powers of the Ten Tails and knowledge from 1,000 years worth of existence, Kakashi was still worried. He wondered if this were what it felt like to be a parent. The mission was a go. Konoha had given them the green light earlier, and so that's where they were going. "I see the infiltration point," Naruto said, pointing to a large drainage pipe before them. "We just gotta get there, and we're in." They made their way to the sewage tunnel and swung their way into it. They walked through. Wind rushed through the tunnel, stirring up the stench, to which Sakura covered her nose, but despite everything, it was okay. While the smell was disgusting, the tunnel at least shielded them from the cold and raised the temperature a bit. Mixed with the abilities that Kakashi had taught them, they managed to slowly increase their core body temperature, which would in turn radiate through their body, warming their skin. Of course, they were still wet, which sucked. But this was Amagi. It was doubtful that anyone outside wouldn't be. It was what the world would expect from children who were supposedly orphaned and homeless. So they would just have to get used to it if they wanted to fit into the persona that they've been given. They looked at the map that they had of Ame and realized that they were now well within the city. They each took a moment to try and memorize all of the important locations as best they could, and then returned the map to their infiltration survival backpack. They then found a small alcove near a ladder where they could easily place the backpack. It would be safe, out of the way, and accessible should they need it. Once that was done, they began to climb up the ladder and out into the city. Thankfully, they had calculated their positioning right and came up in an alleyway. Nobody had seen them. They would put the manhole cover back on. They all looked to each other and gave a nod to show that they were ready. They were nervous and the look on their face said so, but it also helped play into their persona. Fear was a natural part of the life of a homeless war orphan, not knowing when you might eat again, if you might eat again. Fear of dying from exposure, fear of all the things that go bump in the night that could only be protected against by a common locked door. Such amenities were only available to those with homes, and so one was expected to be afraid if they lived like this. They began to walk out into the village. Looking around, they saw people going about their daily business as they had to. The villagers seemed unfazed about the rain, but then again, they seemed to have no choice but to be. It almost never stopped raining in Ame. More than likely, it was the location of the village and its connection to this particular part of the world. Warm air from the land of wind mixed with cold air from the land of earth to the north likely collide here. It's symbolic in a way. The First, Second, and Third Shinobi World Wars took place heavily here on the Western Front. The forces of Iwa and Suna gathered together here against the forces of Konoha. It was as if the rain was symbolic for war, that all the inhabitants needed to suffer through it to survive. The components of that war coming from the north and south, settling here as Konoha came from the east. Naruto mused that this was the reason why Ame had settled against Konoha in this war, because of the superpowers north and south of it had. They simply were tired of having to lose their country even if they never fought, and now Team 7 was here to fight against them. They were here to kill their leader before he could pose a threat. After all, the best thing Konoha could do right now was target the weakest of the three, and the weakest happened to serve as a bridge between the land of earth and the land of wind. By taking this land and the land connected to it, Konoha could cut off supply lines and divide the two superpowers, making two western fronts instead of just one. It would break the synergy and make them a little easier to manage for Konoha. As they walked the streets, Sakura looked to Sasuke. What are we supposed to do? He began to look over the mission. It's our job to keep our eyes and ears open for any information that we can and locate Hanzo of the Salamander. Once we've found him, we're to assassinate him. Then we extract. Sakura nodded. What should we do then? Sasuke thought about it. We need to find a place where the shinobi of the village gather. There we can get more info. He would lead them to a bar. This place is supposed to be a big hangout for shinobi of all kinds, Sasuke said. But won't they kick us out because we're so young? Sasuke nodded. Indeed. We need something to cause them to let us stay here just long enough to gather intel. But what should that be? Sakura asked. I have an idea, Naruto said. He would take a kunai out and drag it across the palm of his hand, cutting the skin, drawing blood. He grimaced as he did so. Ow, son of a swamp toad, that hurt. Naruto, what did you do? Sakura shouted at him. Naruto gave her a half-pained smile. The thing that children are best at is being cute, so I'm gonna use the greatest tool against them. Follow me. He walked into the bar. It was warm inside, but dark. There were plenty of shinobi here, and each one was clamoring and talking to themselves. The bartender was cleaning glasses in preparation for the next orders. Naruto would walk to the counter and display his hand without a word, simply sniveling, tears running down from his cheeks. The bartender, the poor fellow, absolute heart of gold, put his glass down and came around the side of the bar so fast that it almost seemed like he might have run to get there. He knelt down next to Naruto and took his hand in his own and turned it over slowly to look at the cut. Looks pretty deep. It shouldn't be anything to worry about though. Would you like to come in the back? I've got a first aid kit that can make it better. Naruto in his own head scoffed. What an absolute sucker. Outwardly, he maintained his crocodile tears and nodded. He even gave a bit of a flourish with his quivering lip. Naruto would go to the back with the bartender while Sakura and Sasuke were to remain outside. They would be looking for any information they could get a hold of about Hanzo of the Salamander. In the back, Naruto continued to cry as he left drips of blood behind on the ground. He began to wonder within himself if he had maybe gone a bit overboard with the cut. It was certainly bleeding quite a lot, but then again, he couldn't be sure that anything less would have gotten the bartender's attention. The bartender would sit Naruto down in a chair and fetch a first aid kit. He would turn over Naruto's hand. Okay, you gotta be a big boy, okay? Deep breaths. This might sting a little. The bartender began to pour alcohol over the wound. Naruto cried out as those tears became a little bit closer to real. The bartender's heart swelled for it as he then took a towel and covered the wound, squeezing it between his hands. He would use his finger to wipe away one of Naruto's tears. Look at how brave you're being. My soul, you've got to be one of the strongest customers I've ever seen. Naruto wanted to puke. Sakura and Sasuke had better be getting that info. The bartender would get out stitches and begin to close the wound. Thankfully, it only seems to have gone through the upper layers. You're very lucky.
What were you doing that caused this?
Naruto technically didn't have a story, so he mumbled through heaves of air to make it sound like he was telling a story, but leaving the information completely unintelligible, with the only words being understandable being filler words like what and when and I. The bartender pretended to understand just to be nice. Once he finished stitching it up, he would cover the wound with some bandages.
There, I think that should do it. Don't remove the stitches for about 2 weeks. We want to give your hand time to heal, okay? So even if it itches, don't scratch at it, alright?
Naruto nodded. The bartender lifted him into his arms and gave him a slight spin.
See, you're okay. You'll be perfectly fine. You're strong and brave and your hand will heal perfectly. So put on a smile for me, okay?
Naruto was surprised. Naruto mused that this man, as young as he seemed, would make a perfect father. Some people were just built that way, and it caused him no shortage of guilt for taking advantage of this man's kindness. Suddenly, a door opened and a group came in. "Hey Kion, how's business?" an orange-haired man asked as he walked in. "Oh, I see you're entertaining a guest. Who's this, a nephew?" The bartender shook his head.
No, I think he's homeless. He hurt his hand and I was just trying to help.
The orange-haired boy nodded. "Ah, making a boo-boo better. You were always a balm to people, Kion." The orange-haired man walked over to them. "He's homeless?" The bartender shrugged.
Are you homeless or do you have a family?
Naruto looked back at them. The orange-haired man seemed to have a smile on his face that shouted kindness from the rooftops. Naruto shook his head. "No, I don't have anywhere to go. Me or my friends." A red-haired man peeked through the door toward the bar. "There's 2 more outside." The orange-haired man nodded. He turned to Naruto with that ever-present smile. Naruto looked the man up and down. He possessed the headband of a shinobi of Amagi, but his attire was outlandish compared to what the others wore. He wore a black robe with red cloud pattern printed all across it. Who the hell would come up with a design like that, Naruto wondered, looking at the garish outfit. "You know, me and my friends used to be homeless. We were war orphans too during the Second Shinobi World War." Naruto was silent. "Would you like to come with us?" the man asked. Every natural response Naruto felt was to shout no. To be frank, this was the stranger danger his mother had always warned him about. But his mission required him to get close to people like this to gain information. A third figure, this time with lavender hair, pushed him out of the way. "You don't know how to talk to kids, Yahiko. You're just gonna scare him." She stepped forward and looked at Naruto with the softest, kindest smile. "Hi," she said. Naruto didn't stop staring. The woman spoke again. "Our group is like a group of people who have nowhere to go. We all look out for each other like a family. We're dedicated to keeping the peace like our village leader, Hanzo." Naruto scoffed within himself. "You call declaring war keeping the peace?" The girl continued. "If you want, you can come with us. We'll shelter you, feed you, and help you find a place to go. We'll protect you." Naruto looked out the door. "Only if my friends can come." The woman glanced to the door and then back. "Of course. All your friends can come if they want. We won't stop them." The bartender let Naruto down.
"Go tell your friends what he said."
Naruto ran into the other room to speak with Sakura and Sasuke. "Any leads, guys?" They shook their heads. "Well, that's okay," Naruto said. "We got a lucky break. There's some sort of humanitarian shinobi group affiliated with Hanzo in the back. They want to shelter us since they think we're orphans. If we want more intel on Hanzo, we might be able to get it from them. And if we're lucky, they might even get us close to him. What do you say? Should we go with them?" Sakura looked to Sasuke for guidance, unsure of what to do. Sasuke thought about it. It would be a good opportunity, but do you know how dangerous it is? It'll be really easy to get caught, and if we get caught, it's over. No place to hide. All we'll be able to do is get caught and killed. Naruto nods. "True, but without sacrifice, there can be no victory. If we do this, it'll be more likely that we'll learn what we're hoping to learn. Higher success chances." Sasuke nodded. "Higher success chance, but also a higher chance to fail. Balance, Naruto. It wouldn't be called a risk without the chance that we do fail." Naruto nodded. "Yes, I understand, but think about it. If we play our cards too safely, we won't learn anything, nor will we be able to kill Hanzo. We need to be bold. We need to take our chances. If we don't take a step forward, we won't go anywhere, and this is the golden opportunity. I say we go for it." Sasuke looked to Sakura. "What do you think?" She thought about it. "I think Naruto's right. We're already in danger. We might as well get something out of it." Sasuke took a deep breath and sighed. He thought about it more. He looked up at them through his eyebrows. "Fine, but the moment things go screwy, we bail." "As if there'll be any other option," Naruto said, presenting his fist for a bump. "We're all in this together." Sasuke raised his fist and touched Naruto's. Together. Sakura then touched her fist to theirs. Together. The three would then hug. After a moment more, they would return to the back room where the 3 garishly dressed shinobi would be waiting for them. "Are we ready to go?" They all 3 nodded. Each one took the hand of one of the Akatsuki members. They'd then be led back to the Akatsuki base of operations. The building was strange, to say the least. It possessed a tongue and looked like some sort of cyberpunk Tengu statue of the Sage of Six Paths, or so he could only guess since it possessed the design of the Rinnegan within it. The same eye seen only twice in Naruto's entire life. the eyes of the Sage of Six Paths, and the eyes he helped create in Madara Uchiha. It looked like something from Kabuki theater. As if sensing that was on his mind, Conan looked to him. Don't let the statue scare you. The Rinnegan are a symbol of hope, peace, and unification. They symbolize what the Sage of Six Paths stood for and what we all stand for by extension. They led them in. They began to introduce all of the members of the Akatsuki. That there is Kie and Daibutsu, Yahiko said, and Kyusuke's over there. He looked around. Hey, Daibutsu, where's Tobi? Daibutsu looked up from his game of cards with Kie.
I think he said he had to take care of some business out of town.
Yahiko sighed. That man's always busy. He seems to spend more time outside of Ame than in it. I can only imagine what he's up to. Anyway, he walked to the kitchen. You three smell like a drainage pipe. The trio's heart almost stopped right there. Yahiko smiled. There are some bathrooms throughout the building. Feel free to take a bath or something. I'll make you all something to eat when you get out. Scrub up good. I think we have some old clothes for you. Might be a few sizes too big, but it should work out well. And so the trio did as they were told, coming back later wearing the clothes that had been provided for them. Oh, they look so cute, Conan said, almost completely coming apart at the seams. Nagato would grab the plates of food with Yahiko and provide them each with something to eat. Naruto's eyes met Nagato's and they just stared at each other for a moment before Nagato broke his gaze. Team 7 began to eat. Yahiko took up a chair and sat down at it backwards. Tell me, how long has it been since you've eaten? The trio looked at each other. They all waited for Naruto. This was Naruto's infiltration. They were just along for the ride. Naruto looked back. 3 days. Yahiko was surprised. You haven't eaten anything in 3 days? That's horrible. I wish we had known sooner. It's odd. We tend to scour the streets for the needy and we didn't see you. We've been living in the sewers, actually. The one place we could get out of the rain. Yahiko nodded his head. Yes. Now everything makes sense. They continued to eat. So how did you kids lose your parents? That was a question that none of them knew how to answer. Naruto thought about it and then looked back to Yahiko. Well, we don't like talking about that. Yahiko nodded. Yeah, well, that is your privacy. Don't wish to dredge up any unpleasant memories. Naruto offered a bow. Thank you for your hospitality, sir. Yahiko smiled. Just call me Yahiko. As Sakura ate, she couldn't help but notice that Conan was looking at her. At first, she tried to ignore Conan, but she didn't stop staring. She ended up looking up at her. Conan then spoke. Your hair is very pretty, she said. This made Sakura grow a bit red in the face. The woman then spoke. My name is Conan, and as you can see, I'm the only girl in a group full of boys. It's gonna be nice to have another lady around. Sakura smiled. I'm Sakura. Conan smiled. Wow, your name is as pretty as your hair, and it matches too, a beautiful pink. Yahiko took a cue from Conan and realized that he had never introduced Nagato. How shameful, he really was bad with strangers. By the way, I'm Yahiko. I told you that already though. And that there is Nagato. Nagato Uzumaki. Naruto's eyes turned up to look at Nagato for a split second. He then looked back down and then to Sasuke, who was side-eyeing him. Naruto bowed again. It's a pleasure, Yahiko. Nagato. I'm Naruto. Naruto. And this here is Sasuke. Sasuke offered a slight bow. Yahiko laughed a bit. Nagato, his name sounds like yours. Nagato nodded. So what part of town do you come from? Naruto shrugged. I was never good with directions. For all I know, you found me in the part of town where I came from. Yahiko smiled a bit. Well, it's a pleasure. We're gonna take care of you here until you can get on your feet, or if you prefer, you can simply join us. We're a non-profit group of former castaways who bear their country's symbol proudly like true Ame Nin, even if we technically aren't. Naruto was surprised. You're not part of Ame's forces? Yahiko shook his head. We're closer to a PMC, private military contractors that specialize in peacekeeping and private security contracts. In other words, we don't fight wars on the front lines, but in the only battlefield that matters, the heart. Naruto nodded in understanding. I appreciate that. I wish the wars would all end, but it seems no matter what we try, we just keep stepping on each other's toes. Yahiko sat back. You know, you act very mature for someone your age. Are you always like this? Like what? Naruto asked. So introspective, Yahiko said. Always thinking outside the box, looking at the bigger picture. Honestly, the Akatsuki could use more shinobi like you. Think about it. If you ever want to join us, we're more than happy to help you out. Anyway, feel free to finish your meal. I'm going to go set up a special room for you and your friends. Whenever you feel ready, you can go to bed. Yahiko stood and made his way off to prepare their bedrooms. Nagato did as well. After their meal, of course, they were allowed to go to bed. Their lights were turned off and the trio were put into their beds. When they were sure that the room wasn't bugged or that anyone was listening, they began to speak with each other. This group of people are actually really nice, Sakura said with a smile. Sasuke shrugged. Only because they don't know what we are. But at the same time, they're not even an official part of the Amagakure military branch. Do you think they even know what we want to learn? Naruto shrugged himself. He wasn't sure. They're a private group of contractors, but they're also non-profit? What does that mean? It means that they like to do good deeds without pay and allow others to requisition them to do it, Sasuke said. But the real question is, what's up with that Nagato guy? Naruto, he had the same last name as you, but his first name is so similar. He looks like your mom, and he even has the same Rinnegan as you, or was I the only one to notice it? Naruto shook his head. No, I noticed it, I just couldn't say anything about it. So what is it? Is he the reincarnation of the Sage of Six Paths? Sasuke asked. Naruto thought about it for a moment. No, I don't think so. See, I recognize those eyes. Sasuke and Sakura were shocked. What? Naruto sat there thinking about it. Then he spoke. Sasuke, you know that your Sharingan are descended from the Rinnegan, right? Sasuke nodded. My clan are direct descendants of the sage. Naruto continued. The Sharingan has not been known to belong to any other clans. These days, without being a reincarnation of the Sage of Six Paths or being connected to the Ten Tails, you can't have those eyes. Not without being an Uchiha. Do you think he's maybe kin to you? Sakura asked. Like maybe one of your past incarnations had a baby? Naruto shook his head. No, I looked into those eyes and I recognized them. Those eyes once belonged to Madara Uchiha. I know because it was those eyes that enslaved me when I was first found by Hashirama Senju all of those years ago. How did he get a hold of such eyes? The group was silent for a moment. I thought Madara was interred in Konoha's cemetery by the founders, Sasuke said. He's supposed to be, Naruto said. I saw him buried. His grave has never been disturbed to my knowledge. How this happened, I'll never know. But I'll stake my life on it. Those were Madara's eyes. It seems that the mystery of the Akatsuki deepens. We came for intel against Ame and we may have stumbled onto something even greater, Sasuke said. Naruto sat up. Well, I'm gonna go spying. Sakura sat up too. What? Naruto stood and looked down at her. We didn't come here to hide, did we? We have a mission to do. I'm going to go hear what they know. Naruto then made it to the door and silently opened it up. He began to make his way out through the base. The trio was sitting by the table talking. Naruto listened in. Any word on when Hanzo will be back in Ame? Nagato asked. Yahiko then responded. Tomorrow. He's supposed to make it back tomorrow. It's supposed to be a big celebration. He's apparently managed a victory on the Western Front. Naruto was surprised. He hadn't even heard that Hanzo had left the village. He listened in. There's supposed to be a parade. Suddenly, Naruto was grabbed by the ear. Don't you know it's a bad habit to listen in on other people's conversations? Daibutsu said. He pulled him around the corner and pushed him into the main room. The others turned back. I found this brat spying. Konan, Nagato, and Yahiko would turn around and look at Naruto. Spying? Naruto, were you spying? No, I wasn't. I was just listening into their conversation. Don't act like you weren't. They looked at Naruto to see what his response would be. Naruto didn't know what to do, so he began to work up the crocodile tears again. I didn't mean to. I just couldn't find the bathroom. I wanted to pee and then get a glass of water. I didn't mean to listen to your conversation. I didn't want to interrupt. He began to snivel more. Konan stood and walked over to him and pulled him into a hug. She smiled at Daibutsu. Thank you so much for your help, Daibutsu. He waved his hand and proceeded to return to his room. Konan stroked his hair. It's okay, we're not mad. Naruto hid his face in her jacket and continued to weep. Phew, that was close, Naruto said in his own mind. These are really good people. Naive, but good. I hate that I have to do this to them. She would then bring him to a table and sit him down on her lap. Nagato, would you go and get him a glass of water? Nagato would do so. Yahiko sat across the table from him. There's no need to cry, Naruto. We're not mad. It's not like we're talking about anything secret. But next time we're talking and you need something privately, we'd prefer you just come out and say so. That way we know you're there and don't say anything that kids like you shouldn't hear, okay? Naruto nodded. Okay. Yahiko smiled. You know what? I've got a wonderful idea. How about we take you and your friends to the parade tomorrow and see Hanzo? He just got back from the war and he's celebrating a win against Konoha. Would you like that? Naruto nodded. Good. We can all go together then. Nagato returned with a glass of water and gave it to Naruto. Go ahead and drink as much as you want, she said. He would take the glass and guzzle it down. After all, they would stand. Yahiko would then lead Naruto to the bathroom to do his business and then lead him back to his bedroom. He would tuck Naruto in and wish him good night. He would then close the door. Naruto would wait. He'd use his Rinne Sharingan and look below the division between the floor and the door. He didn't see Yahiko anymore. He assumed it was safe. He would then return to his bed. Hey, guys, he would say. There was no response. Naruto would roll his eyes and sigh. He'd shake them awake. They would turn to look to him groggily. What is it? Sasuke would ask. Naruto would then inform them. Tomorrow there's going to be a parade. It'll mark Hanzo's triumphant return. If we're to strike, that's the best time to do it. The next day arrived. Naruto was so nervous he had a hard time eating breakfast, which the Akatsuki members noticed. They, of course, didn't say anything. After all, they assumed it was just him being shy about eating around virtual strangers. They told him to eat as much as he wanted and that there was always plenty left later. Right now, however, Naruto had snuck away. They thought he was in the bathroom again, but right now he was outside, standing on the tongue of the building. He would see a pigeon in the air. It would land on his arm, and he'd read a message from Kakashi. Mission status was all it said. Naruto then detailed the plan as well as the extraction point. He would tie his message to the talon of the pigeon and let it go. He would then return inside the building and actually go to the bathroom. Naruto proceeded to write a new message on a piece of paper. This message detailed the truth. He hated so badly to deceive these people. They were good, and he admired them. Maybe he was stupid, maybe he was wrong, but he couldn't help it. He had to detail an apology message, an apology for lying to them, for killing Hanzo, for everything. He had to detail his apology and what it all meant, hoping to somehow lessen the blow of his betrayal later. Tears were streaming down his face now, but this time they weren't fake. These were real. He felt really bad about this. He had come to learn the reality of war, and those who fought in it rarely did so out of true animosity toward the other. They were simply two sets of warriors serving the whims of their village. Loyalty and patriotism were their ways. There was no hatred between them, only honor and duty. Their kindness had shattered the illusion for Naruto, and he began to wonder what it was anyone was actually fighting for and why it was worth it at all. He had always believed in peace, and now he began to realize just how badly he wanted it. The ways of the Akatsuki, the daybreak dawning in his heart, it had shown him the value of peace and the cost of war. But all the same, he was duty-bound, and if he didn't do this, then so many Konoha-nin would lose their lives by attempting to take this bastion atop the water. He had to do what was right by his nation and hope that one day he'd be able to return here and visit the Akatsuki once more. He signed the message, put it in an envelope, and placed it in their room. After that, he met with Sakura, Sasuke, and Yahiko. He'd be informed that Konan and Nagato were to remain behind, and that this time it would be Daibutsu and Kie that would come with them to the parade. Naruto understood and followed. They got to the place of the parade, and Naruto went over the plan in his head. He would sit here patiently and wait for Hanzo's cart to come through. When he was close enough, he would jump to it and then turn into the Ten Tails, and use all of that power to destroy Hanzo. But could he do it? Could he go along with it? Could he commit a cold-blooded murder like that? He heard cheering as Hanzo grew closer. Naruto looked around. Sakura and Sasuke were already sneaking away to a safe location. Naruto looked around and saw the faces of the citizens. So many innocent people were here, but more than that, he noticed children in the crowd. Tears began to well up in his eyes. He was about to kill so many innocent people. This couldn't be right. This had to be a war crime. This had to be wrong somehow. But did he have a choice? He shook his head. No, maybe Danzo's been right all along. He should have simply initiated the wailing. If he had, none of this would have had to happen. The carriage drew closer. He tried to steel himself. All these people would die and he'd carry that burden forever. But as a shinobi of Konoha, it was his duty to prioritize his own people over the other nations. He saw a child in the crowd turn to look at him. The child held a bear in their arms and could have been no older than 3. It saw him crying and offered a kind smile and a wave. Naruto almost broke down. He felt a hand on his shoulder. Naruto, are you okay? What's wrong? Naruto looked back to see Yahiko kneeling next to him. Tears began to flow as he knew that his actions would kill him too. Him, Kie, Daibutsu, all of them. He shook his head. Yahiko, I'm about to do something very bad and I don't want to do it. I really don't want to do it. Please, kill me so I don't have to do it. Kill me so I won't be betraying my home nation. Kill me so I won't have to harm yours. You've been so kind to me. I don't want to be at war anymore. Yahiko was surprised. Naruto, what do you mean? Naruto then blurted out loudly, I'm a Konoha shinobi! The crowd went silent as the carriage seemed to grow closer. Kie and Daibutsu were starting to pull weapons, but Yahiko stopped them. He laughed about it out loud. Silly boy, our village isn't Konoha, it's Amagakure. It can be confusing with all these names being thrown around, huh? Naruto was confused. Why are you covering for me? Yahiko smiled. Because I know who you are, Naruto. I know you're a peace-loving shinobi like me, a perfect candidate for the Akatsuki. I don't care where you come from, or what you were planning to do, or what side you're still on. I'll protect you because you're a good person. Naruto began to cry as the cart began to move past. Yahiko looked up. It's here. Naruto saw the cart. Now was the time. He was ready to step out. Yahiko didn't try and stop him. Naruto would stop though. He would look back at Yahiko, who smiled at him. Naruto shook his head and ran back. He hugged Yahiko. I can't do it, he said. I can't kill you. I can't kill everyone. Yahiko came down to his knees and hugged Naruto. It's okay. It's okay. I'm a traitor, Naruto said. I'm a traitor. Yahiko shook his head. No, you're not a traitor. You're a good person, Naruto, you hear me? Your heart is full of love. There's nothing wrong with that. Yahiko then looked up and he heard a click. He saw the carriage as it went up in flames. He turned and braced to protect Naruto. The fireball ascended toward the heavens as the concussive force and shrapnel went everywhere, shredding everything. Naruto hadn't heard it. He'd only seen it for a short moment. What happened next, he didn't know. He only recalled opening his eyes and seeing Sasuke and Sakura over him, calling out to him, yet he couldn't hear them. Slowly, as he came to, the ringing in his ears began to subside, and he heard voices again. "Naruto, are you okay?" He looked down. His body was dirty, bloody, and wounded, but a lot of the blood wasn't his. He saw Yahiko laying there, back full of shrapnel. He had saved Naruto's life. Naruto rolled over. "Yahiko! Yahiko!" he cried out. "Yahiko!" Sasuke pulled him up. "It's too late, Naruto. We gotta get out of here. Kakashi's waiting to extract us. We have to go." Sasuke picked Naruto up and began to rush away with him. As Naruto screamed out for Yahiko, he thought he saw the silhouette of a masked man wearing a Katsuki pattern on the roof of a building looking down on the scene. The man stood there, looking down. Zetsu appeared behind him. "With the death of Yahiko, Nagato will finally give in to the curse placed upon his eyes. The curse of hatred. The curse that will consume the world in his wrathful blaze." Obito looked back. "We'll return to headquarters. Let's see how this plays out." Konan was watching it all unfold on the TV. She was surprised. She thought she saw Naruto step out of the crowd for a moment before stepping back into it. What was he doing, she wondered to herself. Then the blast went up. Suddenly, Nagato ran into the room holding a letter. "Konan, look!" She took the letter and read it. It was Naruto's apology for killing Hanzo and anyone else in the group. He identified himself as a shinobi of Konoha. "Yahiko, we need to go check on Yahiko." They both got up and ran to the scene. There they saw the bodies of Kie, Daibutsu, and Yahiko all being carted away. Konan fell to her knees and began to cry. Nagato was in disbelief. The children they had taken in had done this. Tears formed in his Rinnegan before he blinked them away. He looked at the skies and screamed in rage at the heavens. He cried out. It was rage, anger, pain, a declaration of war. Naruto was in the boat away from the village. Sasuke and Sakura were near him, making sure he was okay. He was shivering. His entire body felt numb. He was in shock from his wounds, but the pain in his body paled in comparison to the pain in his heart. Yahiko had died to protect him. Naruto hadn't killed him, but he felt as if it were his fault somehow. He felt like a true Judas. He looked over into the water and so many times considered throwing himself overboard and just ending it all. But even if he did that, he would simply be reborn again, and he would only cause more pain. His sins kept piling up, his failures, and every time they did, a new regret was born. His knees were buckling under the pressure of these things. The weight of his duty, the weight of his status, the weight of his power, the weight of his sins. He was pressured by the weight of his expectations and his inability to fulfill any of them, especially his own. He, at this moment, wished he was never born, that he'd never been planted or cultivated all those years ago by the celestial beings who'd come to Earth. He wished that he'd never existed. He could not die. He could never die. But if he could go back, he would have stopped himself from being born. And that's how he truly felt in this moment. Kakashi was getting them away safely, looking over his shoulders. "It looks like we're in the clear." He then looked up to Naruto. "What's the mission status?" Naruto looked up at him. "Mission accomplished." And that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. My soul, was it a weighty episode, and don't you worry, there is at least one more planned episode. The next one will more than likely be the finale unless I feel I can push the story further, and unless you guys want more. If you really enjoyed this episode, please remember to click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications for when we release similar content. And be sure to tell us in the comments what kind of content you'd like to see next, or go to www.amagipublishing.com. Until next time, peace out.